Hello, people of the internet. Welcome, killers of Dead by Daylight. New killers, old killers that maybe just want to get better, just learn more information about the game, because, I mean, a true master is always an eternal student, right? So, at this time of this recording, I have about 150 hours in the game or so. 50 of those hours were played with friends over the course of like 5-6 years since the game came out. And over the past 2 weeks, maybe it's been 3 weeks, I'm not sure, I have climbed from the bottom tier list of rank 20 killer to rank 4. And so I saw a lot of people were saying that it's hard to reach red rank and so on and so forth as killer, and they don't understand what they've been doing wrong. They've been playing for months and they just can't seem to do it. And so I was like, okay, well, I did it pretty quickly, and so I was just like, I'll just put all the information that I learned into a video so that people can climb ranks faster. If that's what they want to do, here it is. And for new killers, here's all the information that you generally need as a killer to play the game effectively and to know what you're up against, because this entire game is stacked against you from the get-go. From the get-go, it is stacked against you. Playing killer, it's just you. It's just you. It's just you against the 4 survivors in the game. You can have 4 perks, they have 4 perks. However, you're against 4 people, so your 4 perks are against their 16 perks. It's nasty, but that's how the game's played. It is what it is. So, starting first off of the list, you need to know what you're up against. So the survivors. Each survivor has their own set of unique perks that they come with. Each survivor has 3 unique perks to them. However, leveling up your character, you can move those perks to other characters, so they're completely interchangeable, so realistically you don't really know what you're going up against every game. Things go differently. But if you're at the lower ranks, people generally don't have the points needed to move those perks onto the other characters. Every game you get blood points, it's the in-game currency, that's how you buy more skills, more items for your characters that you're playing, blah blah blah. So if you see these characters generally in your lobby as killer, you can see what survivors on the opposite side. So generally, if you see a Dwight on the other side of the board, Dwight's 2 perks that you need to think about him having are Prove Thyself and Leader. Now with Prove Thyself, whenever you have a teammate around, you do an action faster. So he'll do a generator 15% faster for each teammate around him. So if there's 4 survivors on a generator, 15, 30, 45, he does the gen 45% faster. Now with the perk Leader, that is also Dwight's perk, when he's around, survivors do other actions faster that don't include generators. So med kitting a teammate will be done faster. Opening the exit gate at the end of the game will be done faster. Things like that. So you need to think about that when you're playing against the Dwight. If he has a toolbox, he's probably just going to gen rush the game. Gen rush is something that I'll get into later on in the video, but he's going to try to get generators done fast if you see that in your game. If you see a Meg in your game, her 3 perks are Adrenaline, Quick and Quiet, and Sprint Burst. Meg is a runner, that's what she does. Her perk Sprint Burst lets her run at 150% of the normal survivor move speed for 3 seconds max, and it has a cooldown of about a minute. At higher rank of the perk, it goes down to 40 seconds. Quick and Quiet is a perk where whenever you do an action in the game, you can hear it. You hear it very loudly as a survivor. So when you're killer and you hear someone jumping over a window, it'll make a loud noise and an audio cue will go off. With the perk Quick and Quiet, it will be quiet. You can do it as fast as you want, survivor, but it will be quiet. It does have a cooldown though, so that is good to know. So if someone disappears into a lot, like if you're chasing someone and their scratch marks disappear and you don't hear a locker go off, but the scratch marks end near a locker, you should probably check inside if you're chasing a Meg. Adrenaline is another perk where when the last generator is completed, whoever on the survivor team has Adrenaline, if say you hit them once and the last generator gets completed by a teammate, they will heal 1 health state and they get to run at a very fast move speed, again that 150% move speed for the next few seconds. So say it's a really messed up situation, but say you just down the Meg right? You hit her twice, she's on the ground, she's crawling, and the last teammate finishes that gen, she will get up off the ground and start running without ever having to have been healed, because that's what adrenaline does. So take note of that and be careful around that at the end of the game. So then the next survivor is Claudette. Claudette has 3 perks: empathy, botany, and self-care. Long story short, Claudette's a healer. So she'll be able to see when survivors are around her that are injured. She can go over and heal them. Botany will speed up the rate at which she heals people, or maybe it's the other way around, I'm not sure. And self-care lets her heal herself without the need of a med kit or without anyone else around her, but she does have a reduced speed to do it so. And that's pretty much all she does. She's a healer. Jake has the perks Iron Will, Calm Spirit, and Saboteur. Iron Will is a perk you're going to see a lot on survivors. Iron Will makes it so that way when you're hurt, you don't make any sound at max rank. Each perk can be leveled up 3 times, and they get stronger the more you level them up, blah blah blah, so on and so forth for every perk. Iron Will, at starting rank you have 50% reduced sound, and then 75%, and then 100%. So if you hit someone in Dead by Daylight, you normally hear them crying out in pain. So if they're hiding behind a tree or something like that, you'll be able to hear them, and you're like, oh, you're right here behind this tree, behind this rock, behind this wall, whatever. You can hear them. But with Iron Will, completely silent. You won't know they're there. Calm Spirit makes it so that I believe you don't scream. Certain perks for killers will make survivors scream. So for instance, the killer, the doctor, has this giant shockwave that he does, and people will scream. Calm Spirit, you won't make that sound. You won't make that scream. You won't hear their audio cues from that. Also, animals like birds around the map, there are crows around the map, you won't trigger them. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then his final perk is Saboteur. So when you're gonna put someone on the hook, right, a survivor with the Saboteur perk can run up and disable the hook before you put them on, thereby wasting your time, and the survivor on your shoulder is probably gonna wiggle off because you have to walk to a new hook. So it's a very strong perk, and some people do run this. So if you see a survivor running towards a hook when you're about to put someone on it, they probably have the perk, so you might want to walk to a different one if you can. Bill, a guy from Left 4 Dead 2 that's in this game, his 2 perks you're going to see a lot in the game are Unbreakable and Borrow Time. Unbreakable is a perk where sometimes it's better to leave someone on the ground so that you can kill the last person, right? There's 2 people left. You down Bill, and then you go and chase the Meg, because you want, you down the last guy, you put them both on the hook, the game's over. If you do that against a Bill, they probably have Unbreakable, so they can pick themselves up off the ground without having to need someone to help them up. So you might get bamboozled, and you could lose the game out like that. If he finishes the gen, opens the door while you're chasing the Meg the whole time, and then they just get out. That's a potential. Another perk is Borrow Time from Bill. When you unhook him, when you unhook a survivor and they fresh off the hook, say you come back to the hook because you see somebody running to get them when you walk away. So they take Bill off the hook, right? And Bill run towards you, or you're chasing Bill again because you want to put him back on the hook. You'll hit him and he'll flash white and then get the speed boost and run away. That's because he has the perk Borrow Time. So when you freshly unhook a survivor, they can't go down for about 12 seconds after taking them off the hook. That's what Borrow Time does. It's a very strong perk, exceptionally strong. If you see a Nia on the enemy team, she probably has Balanced Landing. Balanced Landing is another perk, like how I said before, Sprint Burst. You start running at 150% move speed. Balanced Landing is another perk where when survivors jump from a certain height, it's just like real life, you jump from a certain height, you're gonna stagger when you hit the ground, right? You're gonna hit that wobble like your ankles just broke. But with Balanced Landing, you don't do that, and you get the 150% move speed for the next 3 seconds while you're running. It's an exceptionally strong perk, and it definitely bamboozles a lot of killers when you're chasing someone off of a cliff or off a rock or off a building. Another character that you need to look out for is David. David has probably single-handedly the most used perk I've seen out of every survivor. David has the perk Dead Hard. So after you injure a survivor that has the perk Dead Hard, they get the option to use an ability that will give them invincibility, and it makes them do a dash. When they're in that dash, they are invincible. You can't hit them. It also gives them a good amount of distance. It is exceptionally strong for the fact that you get distance on the killer. Say you've been chasing David for like a solid minute straight, and you're like, oh man, I'm finally gonna get him, and the pallet's too far for him to reach, and just as you're swinging, he dashes forward, gets to the pallet, throws it down. You have to chase him for like another minute because of Dead Hard. That's just how it is. They get that invincibility frame. You cry and you move forward and chase him again, or break off, do something else, whatever you want to do. So at this point, you're probably like, why doesn't everyone just run the invincibility and sprint burst and all that stuff? Luckily, the developers have put in a feature that will stop people from just spamming these strong abilities over and over again. Abilities like sprint burst, Dead Hard, balanced landing, and there's 3 others. So sprint burst, of course, you just start running, you get that move speed. Dead Hard, you have to be hit, and then you can do the dash. Balanced landing, you take the fall, and then you can run fast. There's 3 other perks. So Lithe is another perk where when survivors vault over a window, then they get that move speed. Vault over a window or a pallet, they get the move speed, they're off running. Another exhaustion perk is Smash Hit. Smash Hit, when a survivor smashes the pallet over you as the killer, then they get the move speed and they take off running. Head On is a different type of exhaustion perk, kind of like Dead Hard. So when a survivor has been in the locker for 3 minutes, they burst out of the locker when you come up to, like, say you can hear them, right? You're around the corner and they go into a locker and you audibly hear it. You're like, okay, she's in the locker. I'm gonna run up and grab them. If they're in the locker for 3 seconds, they rush out and it'll stun you for 3 seconds. They do not get the move speed. They don't get the move speed, but you are stunned for 3 seconds and they're fucking gone. So that's a very strong perk as well. Those perks are all exhaustion perks. The ones that I just listed: sprint burst, Dead Hard, Lithe, balance landing, smash hit, head on. Those are the 6 exhaustion perks in the game. They all have a cooldown. Starting at rank 1, they're 60-second cooldowns up until 50 seconds and then 40 seconds cooldown for the perks. If they're running, then the exhaustion goes on cooldown. Like I was saying, exhaustion perks, they go on cooldown, and if the survivor is constantly running, it will never go on cooldown. They have to be standing still or be walking for them to go on cooldown. So following up with the items that survivors can bring. Survivors can bring a few items that can each have attachments on them. So survivors can bring flashlights, they can bring med kits, they can bring toolkits, they can bring keys, or they can bring a map. Those are the 5 items survivors can bring into the game with them, and each of them can have an add-on to them. They each have varying qualities and such and so forth. So if you see a survivor with a flashlight on them, the flashlights are important because if, say you go and you down a survivor, right, and you pick them up, and their friend with a flashlight comes, they can flash the light in your eyes to stun you, and you'll drop the person on the shoulder, thereby wasting your time and getting their friend a free hook escape, essentially. Now, to counteract this, the best thing I can offer you is either A, look around and make sure that no one's around when you're going to pick them up, or B, if you're next to a wall, say you're next to a wall, right, and your survivor's right here, as opposed to looking straight forward on into the open space, turn yourself and look at the wall. Therefore, someone can't just flash the light in your eyes. Stare at the walls, that way they can't put the light in your eyes, and you get the survivor guaranteed. That being said, you can still get flashlight blinded when you're walking towards the hook, because they'll stand there and try to flash it in your eye when you're walking there. Best case scenario, you just look down or look up or look to the side when you're going to the hook so that it's not directly in your eyes. Also, when you're chasing someone, if they drop the pallet and stun you with the pallet, they'll flash the light in your eyes to get the blind on you. Some survivors are sneaky and they'll do this thing where they blind you and then they crawl over the pallet so you can't destroy it, and they just run around you so that you're lost and confused and you don't know what's happening. Best thing I can say about this is when this happens, just try to break the pallet immediately when you're stunned on it. And if it doesn't let you do that action, that means they're probably slow crawling over the pallet, in which case you won't be able to hear it because it's so soft and subtle of a sound. So just take a swing at it, honestly. Just take a swing at it. You might hit them, you might not. Moving on to medkits. Survivors can bring medkits to heal themselves in the game. Normally they can't heal themselves without a person there doing it for them. With medkits, they can heal themselves and they can heal their teammates faster with medkits. Like I said, each tool can bring its own add-ons. So they can add more and more charges to their medkits. They can give themselves special boosters. For instance, there's an item that they can add on to medkits that when it's a syringe, and when they stab themselves after 16 seconds, they'll heal 1 health state. So say you're chasing someone and you hit them once and they stop and they look like they're using a med kit, and you're still chasing them and you're like, why did they do that? After 16 seconds, they would heal 1 health state if they used that item. Therefore, when you're chasing somebody and they do that real quick, and after like a few seconds, they just stop and you hit them, and they're on the ground and you're like, why did they let me do that? They might just get back up off the ground and keep running. It's crazy, but people will do these things. These are the things that you might have to be careful of and look at while you're playing the game. Or there's another item for the med kit that allows them to it'll give them another booster like that so that they can take another free hit for the next 8 seconds, and so that they won't go down. People will do things like this in your game. At low ranks, you probably don't have to worry about it, but as you get higher and higher, these are things that are pretty common and normal that you'll see. Toolkits, again, like the mechanical box, the toolbox that you see. If you see the survivor with that in your lobby, take note that they're probably going to do the generator faster, and if you're carrying someone towards a hook and they have the toolbox in their hands, they're probably going to run over and try to disable the hook to waste your time again. That's what the toolbox is for, to do generators faster and to disable your hooks. Both are obnoxious and annoying, and it is what it is. Keys. Again, there's different varying levels of each item. So the key, there's different variations of it. There's a green version which will not open the hatch. As a core feature of the game, we all know survivors need to do 5 generators to get the exit gates to open and then leave. However, if you're doing good as a killer and you kill 3 of their teammates and there's 1 survivor left, you can't really expect that 1 survivor to do 5 generators without the killer finding them. That's just ridiculous. In that case, they can find the hatch and escape to give the survivors a chance, right? That makes sense. That's fair. That's fair to me, personally. However, there's an item now, the key, that will allow survivors to open the hatch without ever having to finish the 5 generators. So you can finish 4 generators as a survivor, and if you have the purple key, you can get your teammates, find the hatch, open it, and jump out and escape before the killer ever has a chance to even know that you did it. It's ridiculous, it's crazy, and it happens. It happens. Another item that survivors can bring is the map. The map is an item that shows where other things around are for the survivor. So it'll show them where generators are. I'm not too sure, honestly. I haven't used the map before. I know it shows where generator are, and I know it shows where the hatch is. At least it should with the... Maybe it's with add-ons. I'm not sure. All I know is that map shows survivors where things are around the map. Where chests are too. That's the other thing. Chest. The hatch will spawn when 4 generators are completed, or if the number of survivors are less than the generators. So if you have again speaking, that you get 3 kills and there's 5 generators left, then the hatch will spawn. Blah blah blah, so on and so forth. Hatch is good for just single survivor player, but when they bring a key, you probably just want to kill that guy so that they don't cheese you and just make you lose the game immediately. It's just obnoxious. Kill that guy. Again, like I said before, each item has a varying level. So flashlights, med kits, and toolboxes, brown, green, yellow, purple, orange, in that order. And each level will do something different. Brown med kits have 8 charges, green have 16, I think, and just everything changes, so on and so forth. Like the flashlight will have, again, all those different colors, but the amount of battery life that they have in each of those flashlights changes. It goes 8 seconds, 6 seconds, blah blah blah. Now, moving on to the generators. Again, the core objective as the killers, stop the survivors from doing the generators and escaping the match, blah blah blah. Knowing where to go and when to go as the killer to the generators makes all the difference. Where to go at the start of the match, just run to the farthest generator from you. They're probably going to spawn there. They probably spawn the farthest generator away from where killer spawns. And that is important. You need to get that is important. You need to get to the survivors as soon as possible so you can start putting people on hooks, because I promise you the game flies by. The minute that you probably get over there across the map, they probably have the generator either almost finished or finished completely by the time you get there. The game is stacked against you. You cannot waste time as a killer. You cannot waste time. You need to make sure you're there ASAP, Rocky. Now, knowing when to go to the generators is the next thing. Mid game, there's probably going to be, I say at low ranks, there's probably people playing with their friends that know how to play the game. And if you spend all your time chasing that one guy that's good at the game, how are you going to stop the people from doing generators? How is that going to be beneficial for you? It's knowing when to break off of someone because this generator is almost finished, or you think that 2 people are over here on one generator, there's one guy over here, let me go stop the 2 people, or pushing someone away from a generator while you go stop the other 2 people that are almost finished with their generator. How many generators are left? It's knowing when and where to go. So pushing people that are trying to chase you away from the generator, sometimes chasing them around a corner so that you can force them back over there so you can stop the people that are on generators at the same time in the same breath. Knowing when and where to go. It's going to be completely up to you. Everything's situational, but for me personally, the more people you stop on a multi-person gen, the better. Moving on to loops. So we've seen these loops before, blah blah blah, where you're chasing a survivor around the rock or around a wall or around whatever, a building or whatever. If you keep going in circles over and over again, inevitably you're going to catch them, but you need to make sure you're doing it right. If you see the survivor constantly hugging the wall, you need to be hugging that wall as well when you're chasing them. If you're not hugging that wall, you're never going to catch them, because they're always going to be slightly faster than you, because they're taking that extra time, or they're not taking the extra time, they're taking that extra difference in making sure that they stay against the wall. While you're around the outside of the wall, you're never going to catch them. Never going to catch them. What I do against these situations where you're chasing someone around and they're getting to a pallet, what you could and should probably do is try to get them to run in a certain way and then double back. That way you're trying to meet them at one end. Okay, so trying to meet them at one end is generally better, because they'll freak out and realize and then have to completely turn around. Meanwhile, you're still going to meet them there. So you gain distance by actually turning around. It sounds counterproductive, but it makes sense in the long run. Trust me. Just trust me. Also, sometimes when you're chasing someone at a pallet loop, you just gotta eat the pallet. You just gotta eat the pallet. Some survivors are very good and won't drop the pallet if they know that you're going to respect it. So saying I'm chasing someone around this loop for forever, and then we finally get to the pallet where I think they're going to drop it, I'll stop so that I don't get stunned, So then they'll drop it and I can just kick it and keep chasing them. Some people know that you're going to do this and respect the pallet, therefore they won't drop it and they'll just keep running around the loop so that they can get you. It's annoying, it's frustrating, but sometimes it just needs to be done. At lower ranks, all I did at low ranks, I just ate every single pallet. I kid you not, every single pallet. I just let them hit me with it every single time, broke it, kept moving, downed them, kept it moving forward. That's what I did every single time. Because I mean, that's really all you needed. Bloodlust is something that killers get. After you're chasing someone for so long, your character will actually start to get faster and faster. That's what Bloodlust does. That's just an easy catch-up mechanic for killers. In case you're taking too long chasing someone, you'll get Bloodlust, and then yeah, it's just help you end the chase because you've been chasing them for forever. The devs are looking out for you. At least we get that. Around structures like jungle gyms and windows, jungle gyms are typically sections of the game that are designed to help survivors loop the killer for as long as possible. Excuse me. And some of them just seem impossible to play around for killer, and that's really where the mind games come in. Say you're running around this one area for an elongated amount of time, right? Now what you could do is keep looping them for forever and ever and ever and ever. Like there's one structure that's very common in the game. It looks like two L walls like this, right? Or two rectangle walls next to each other and then one pallet in the middle, right? So say you're chasing the survivor, they go to the pallet, they drop the pallet, and then they run to the right, and then you run to the right. But they know you're gonna run to the right instead of breaking the pallet, so they run left, and then you see them run left, so then you chase left, and then they run right again, and it's a back and forth cycle. A good thing to do here that I like to do, and that works a lot of the times, is quite literally just when they run right again, I sit there on that end piece of the wall. I just sit there and I don't show them my red stain. If you weren't aware and you've only played killer, when you look at someone in game as killer, there's a red stain. So there's a red light in front of you that shows that the killer is looking in that general direction. So I'll sit there and stare at a wall so that my red stain doesn't show them. They get confused and don't know where I am because they can't tell where I'm looking, or they haven't seen me past that wall where we were looking at each other for a while. So they'll actually run back into me and I get the free hit because they're scared and they don't know where I am or where I went. And it works. You have to mind game. You have to think outside the box to try and get them to do what you want them to do. And that's just how mind games work. That's just one example that was probably poorly explained. Maybe I can get a visual example. Yeah, but mind games are generally what you need if you want to advance highly in this game or just make your life a lot easier. So when you first launch up Dead by Daylight, you're probably not gonna have a killer unless you're here for Pinhead, in which case more power to you, good luck with that. He's a very particular killer, let me just say that. But for new killers in the game, you're gonna have the 5 starting killers, I believe. So it should be Trapper, Wraith, Hillbilly, Nurse, and the Huntress. You should generally start with those 5 killers, I believe. I may be mistaken, I'm not sure. So in terms of each killer that you start off with, Trapper, the worst killer in the game. Absolutely the worst killer in the game, but I find him to be very fun. I like playing him. I'm at the top of the tier list, I'm at red ranks, and I enjoy playing Trapper. He's very fun to me. I wouldn't suggest that as a starting player, because Trapper, really, you need to know where survivors are going to run, how they're going to run, and what they use the most. And you need to put down traps there before they even know it. And you need to know how to corral them and chase them into those traps so that your ability is effective. That's not the only problem with Trapper, though. The problem with Trapper is that survivors can also walk up and disable your traps so that your power is basically useless. And at that point, you're just running around with the machete, just hitting people. He's probably the worst killer in the game, but again, I find him very fun and I like playing him. That being said, it's not like he's not effective. If you want to play Trapper at a low level, my one piece of advice is put the traps down in front of a window or put the traps down in front of a pallet. That way, when they inevitably run to those windows or pallets, bam, you caught them. I mean, that's the best advice I can give for you at low ranks for Trapper. If you're experienced at the game, I mean, you'll know where survivors are going to run 99% of the time, so you just trap those areas, boom, you got them. The Wraith. The Wraith is an exceptionally strong trapper. He can go completely, well, not completely, but nearly completely invisible in the game. And so you ring your bell, and when you ring the bell, you go invisible, and your terror radius is gone. Survivors can hear your terror radius as any killer. When you get closer and closer, they hear a heartbeat. But when you're invisible, you're undetectable, so they can't hear the heartbeat, so they don't know you're coming if they're not looking for you. When the Wraith uncloaks, he takes the time, rings his bell, the charge is finished, and then he gets a very good burst of movement speed. During that time is when I suggest that you try to hit the survivor. When if you just click or you hit your button to swing with the killer, you just swing. If you hold the button, you'll do a lunge attack and you get some distance and then swing. If you do your lunge attack with the Wraith while you have your movement speed, they cannot dodge it. I promise you, they can't dodge it. Unless they just magically get through a window a few seconds beforehand, but they cannot dodge it. It is exceptionally strong. It sounds completely weak compared to every other character's abilities in the game, but the Wraith is one of the strongest in the game. The fact that they don't know you're there and they can't be prepared until they hear you ringing your bell, and then you get that exceptionally strong, fast movement speed with the swing, disgusting. It's phenomenal. The downside to playing Wraith is if you're invisible and they flash the light on you, they burn you and you're stunned for about 5 seconds, I believe. But he's an exceptionally strong character. Even with that downside, he's still very good to play. The Hillbilly is strong in his own rights. The Hillbilly has a chainsaw, which lets him dash across the map. He runs with his chainsaw revved across the map, and he won't stop until he hits a survivor or hits a wall. And it's very, very good to get across the map very fast. If you know survivors are running across to a generator you just left while you're chasing somebody, you just get back there very fast. This can be a downside, however. If you don't play it right, or if you're running around in a circle, you probably won't be able to hit it. But that's your ability. You can still swing like any other normal killer, that's still fine. But the chainsaw, however, is very unique in that you don't have to hit people twice to knock them down. If you chainsaw someone, they just fall to the ground, period. They just fall to the ground. That is the best thing about the Hillbilly, is that he just one taps people. Like I said, he's strong in his own rights. Now, the Nurse, S tier, disgusting, top tier killer. Play if you want to win. Play the Nurse if you want to win. The Nurse can teleport around the map. It's gross. So she channels an ability, and for a certain distance, as far as you channeled it, you can teleport. So I'm here, survivors over a wall, behind a wall, I know you're there. Teleport behind the wall, smack. Easy pickings, easy pickings. For stages that have 2 floors on them, you can teleport up and down stairs. You can do it. She's a S tier killer, strong and disgusting. I would play Nurse if I was just starting it. Well, maybe not. Well, she's good. Just try her. Why not? She's very strong. And the last starting killer is the Huntress. Very fun. I like to play her. She throws axes. That's it. That's her power. She has a regular axe she swings with, and then you can charge up an axe, throw it. You can hit people across the map. Very funny. That's straightforward. That's the Huntress. Now, running into the meta for the game. The meta. Survivors. Every game at higher ranks, you're going to run into the same problem. Well, even at low ranks. Yeah, the meta for the game right now for survivors is gen jockeys. They are literally only prioritizing getting the gens done fast, and they only stop to take a break if they're A, being chased, or B, if you have the perk Hex Ruin. Those are the only times I find survivors not doing gens. Well, in addition to obviously getting their teammate off the hook, but even sometimes then they don't stop doing gens to get their teammates off hooks. They will almost let their friend die on the hook so that they can finish their generators. That's all people want to do right now in the state of the game, is get their gens done fast and get out. Which obviously, I mean, that's the name of the game. That's what survivors want to do, right? But in a minute, we'll talk more about that. So the meta for the game is get the gens done as fast as possible for survivors and get out. For you as killer, you want to look for scratch marks ASAP. Look for scratch marks. When survivors are running, they'll leave scratch marks, and you need to find those to chase them down. Follow those. If you lose visual of them, just follow the scratch marks. They won't lead you astray. At low tier, I think perks don't matter all too much. It generally comes down to gameplay. People don't really know how to use their perks, I think. And the metas don't really form at the low tiers. But at high tier, however, and mid tier, low mid tier, all the way up into the rest of the game, it's meta all the way through. People do not stop, they do not stray, they do not break away from the meta. You might have one person that maybe every 5 games runs a healing perk or something like that. But for the rest of the game, you're probably gonna have to worry about survivors using the perks Decisive Strike, Dead Hard, Borrow Time, Sprint Burst, Iron Will, and dude, what? Self-care, and just things like that. Whatever. Balanced Landing. They always have an exhaustion perk. Just keep that noted. Survivors at low mid tier and up always have an exhaustion perk, no matter what. They probably have Decisive Strike, and their exhaustion perk's probably always going to be Dead Hard. Probably. If you see one person dead hard in your game when you go to take a swing at them, and then you go to another person, they also have dead hard, just assume they all do. If they haven't used their exhaustion perk, just assume they all have dead hard, because it's not uncommon that it will happen, because dead hard is an exceptionally strong perk and it's used every game. Again, people will probably always have Decisive Strike, because again, after they get unhooked and you find them again within a minute and you grab them, they have that option to stab you over the shoulder and then get out. Exceptionally strong second chance perks all the time. People run them non-stop. That is just the meta. That's how the game's played. That's just what it is. Gen Rush jockeys every game, they're probably gonna have toolkits just to try and get the gens done as fast as possible while you're wasting time with their looper. The looper is probably going to be the person in the lobby that you see with a flashlight. They're going to be there to annoy you, to get in your way, to stop you from stopping their teammates while they rush the gens. They're generally going to have a flashlight. They're going to be teabagging you. They're going to be clicking their flashlight 50 million times in your face to try to annoy you as much as possible so that you go for them. At low ranks, the looper for their team probably has the flashlight, and they're probably higher rank because they're probably playing with their friend that just bought the game, and so they just want to do that to annoy you because they know that you're not as good as them. My advice, avoid that person. Avoid that person at all costs. Kill the other people. I promise you, the other people that aren't doing the flashlight teabagging, trying to get your attention, like, look at me, killer, look at me, look at me. Those people are the ones that actually fear you, and you chase them down first. Stop them from doing generators, because if that guy out of 4 people is not doing the gens, what is his life to you? Nothing. His life means absolutely nothing other than just trying to be a little fly in your ear, just trying to annoy you. You don't worry about him. We don't worry about flies. We want the cream of the crop. We want the meal, okay? Imagine you go to a 3-course meal and some guy outside is trying to offer you a little piece of spaghetti noodle for $3. Why would I go for the one spaghetti noodle when I can get the full 3 entree course meal right inside the building, you know? Go for the meal. Go for the other 3 people that don't want you to find them, because they are the ones that you want. They are the ones that are going to keep you in the game. Those are the people that you want to kill. Avoid the looper. Don't care about him. Another thing that survivors will do is if you're carrying a survivor on your shoulder and you're going to a hook, sometimes they'll stand in front of you so that you can't get to the hook in time. because when survivors are on your shoulder, they'll wiggle. They'll constantly be wiggling. That's why your character's swaying and moving left to right while you're carrying them, is because they're wiggling on your shoulder to try and break free. They have a timer, and it's about 15 seconds, 16 I believe. And so with people standing in your way, they're just body blocking you from getting there. So you want to swing at them so that they get out of your way. And of course that wastes time, so they're just trying to get their friend free. And it is what it is. That's what happens in the game. But I think for the current meta, that's pretty much what it is that there's probably a looper in every game, and they probably just want to annoy you and just waste your time, blah blah blah, all that good stuff. Make sure you look out for crows around the map. I'm sure you've seen the birds that fly away when you step near them. Those aren't just a visual little thing like, oh cool, there's birds in the map. No, look out for those. If you see a bird fly away in the distance, that's because a survivor is near them and it just scared the bird. That's how you know they're there. Again, if you see a bird land near you, that's how you know a survivor was just in that area, because they scared the bird away and the bird is just coming back. Those are your cues to find people. You need to be looking out for those. In addition to that, don't forget, as killer, you can hear people breathing. Even if they're not running, if they're walking, like sitting still, you can hear them breathing. You have to listen carefully, but you can hear them breathing. Just like with the grunts of pain after you smack them one time and they're no, normally, even still, you can still hear them breathing. You just need to learn what that sounds like. There are some maps that some maps in the game are just designed as horribly as possible for the killer. Horribly designed. If you go to the map Haddonfield or Springfield, Haddonfield is a map that's literally just a cul-de-sac little street with a bunch of houses on it. If you lose on that map, do not feel bad. The other map is Springfield. It's an elementary school. If you lose on that map, do not feel bad. Those two maps are the absolute worst for the killer. The survivors have so much to work with on both of those maps. It's atrocious and disgusting. Do not feel bad if you lose on those maps. They're designed in the survivor's favor, and it's damn near unplayable for the killer. That being said, it's not impossible to win. It is very possible, but it's obnoxious. It is so obnoxious, which is hilarious that I get to that point, because on Springfield, the elementary school, the Trapper, I think that the Trapper makes that map playable. I don't think I've lost a match with the Trapper on Springfield. It's ironic, twist of fate. The worst killer in the game is one of the best on that map. It makes it playable, and that's hilarious. I find that ironically hilarious. But I mean, it is what it is. Sometimes RNG comes into play. Sometimes you'll be chasing a survivor for a minute and they drop like 15 pallets on you and you're like, okay, great. Like, what am I supposed to do about this? There's not much you can do about it. Sometimes you winning or losing the game comes down to RNG. Sometimes it comes down to where the windows are placed, where the kill shack is placed, where the pallets have been placed, what are the loops that they have, what's the environment like. A lot of factors comes in to if you win or lose as killer, and that's just how it is. That being said, it's not like you can't play around those factors, but it definitely makes the game infinitely harder for you. It makes it infinitely harder for you. So sometimes it's not even really down to skill. Sometimes you just got RNG'd out while you're learning the game, and the survivors at the gate will sit there and flashlight and teabag you, but you just have to remember that they had an advantage from the very start of the game. From the very get-go, it was 4 against 1 the entire time, and it is what it is. If you lose, you lose. You learn from it and you move forward. And that's pretty much all I have to say for new killer learning out. I need to shorten this video. Anyways, if you want to see me play killer, you want me to answer some questions, you want to see how I play the game, I go live on twitch.tv/6patsage, blah blah blah, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Oh, and if there's more information that you have any questions for, you just ask it in the comments, or just if you're also a killer that you think I missed something in the video, please just put it in the comments. Help the new guys out. It's a community. People are toxic. A lot of people are toxic in the game, and just helping them out helping them get a leg up on the people that are just annoying and obnoxious is definitely appreciated. Even me, even though I'm red rank, yeah, I'm still learning how to play the game. So any bit of advice is much appreciated. Thank you.
Drink.
That's how it goes in the cycle, at least.
I'm here to paint a picture, my Mona Lisa with a cadent rhythm, a batch of demons